I want to start off by saying congratulations to you guys. This is such a fantastic movie. It's a little shocking that it's coming out during Christmas, especially with the how emotional it is, but it's still such a great movie. What was it like creating this? How did you guys get into character first of all?
I'll let you guys do the character questions.
Sure. Well, I can say that it was the script was so well written that the character was quite clear. I, I learned as an actor, I'm a newer actor, but I learned to read the whole script and read everything that is said by other characters about your character. And that helped me kind of start my work. And then I had lots of lovely conversations with Nelson about who Mia was from his perspective. And then it just, she became who she was. But then once I got on set, she morphed a bit too. Which when the interactions with the other characters and these amazing other actors were right in my face, she just changed a little bit, and that was really fun.
Jacob, anything you need to add?
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely radiate that sentiment, but the majority of it was just the work that we did between Nelson and I. The script was there, and it was very like I really recognized that Gordon was a person that I think a lot of us had interacted with. Um, and there was just a lot of discussions of sort of me and Nelson being like, I think comparing notes about that guy and then finding the perfect place for the dial, where it's like, I have close people in my life that were kind of like that. I think Nelson has some people that he's interacted with throughout his journey that are like that. We would like compare stories and notes about these people to try to like identify where it's like exactly what their vibe is. And I think Gordon's a thing where you could easily energize it too much and then it becomes a
Mhm.
caricature as opposed to a real person.
Definitely. And Nelson, these characters each have their own complexity to it. How do you begin to write all these different personalities and have them mesh together so well?
Yeah, it's been really interesting watching. I mean, watching a lot of other independent movies on the same scale, and it's like, and this one has really done something magic, and I've been so grateful to be a kind of at the eye of the storm with it. And there's sort of a question of like, why is this one working? Like compared to some of the other ones that maybe don't always connect with audiences or something like that. And I think one of them is that we never were trying like it's not even deliberately written as a comedy per se. It's written just to show sequences of events. And I think um like in Mia the character, I would see audition tapes for that character and they would be trying to make every single line a punchline or a punchy line. And whereas when Brooke auditioned, she was just playing it like a real person would, and I think that focus on realism and focus on an authentic experience. And that's also too of like it's a Christmas movie, but it's not doing what Christmas movies normally do. Because I don't care about Christmas movies, honestly. Like I just knew that this story had to be set during Christmas because it's a high stakes thing, If it was 4th of July, she'd be okay. But because it's Christmas, it's high stakes and the weather and all that stuff. And so um I think
4th of July breakup season is kind of making me giggle.
yeah, another version. Yeah, I mean, there's all like it's all that stuff kind of came from just a focus on being grounded in the actual reality and wanting to tell a breakup with sincerity and all that. And that's where like, yeah, it's a fun movie and we had a lot of fun making it, but like it's grounded. And I think that I wasn't trying to, play to the back row. And I think that realism was a North Star for me as a filmmaker in writing, in directing, and then, in releasing it.
Mhm. Definitely. And going with that, indie filmmaking is probably one of the best outlets I've seen so far because, like you said, there's so many different things that you're able to do as an indie filmmaker that not necessarily are available in the mainstream. You guys get to, you guys problem solve different. This does not feel like an indie film. It's so high quality, you know. How do you get to that point with, with the budget you guys usually get and the obstacles that get in the way?
I think, yeah, we always were very keen. I would talk to especially cinematographers, and I would be like, I want this to feel elevated as much as we can with the
Mhm.
restrictions we have. And I think having great partners who were treating this like a real movie and not, it's amazing. I don't look at this movie and see a low budget movie. I looked at it and did everything, I needed to do to get it to where it needed to be. And sometimes that means paying a little bit more, but also means building better partnerships. Like we had an amazing camera rental house that gave us amazing discounted rates and things like that. So it's not about spending more, it's about building better relationships. And that allows you to get your dollar to stretch further and all that. And then, creatively being really focused on what are the movies we're trying to aspire to, and let's really aim for that and aim high for that. So, I think if you want to make indie movies, you have to think both creative, but you also have to think very logistical. And that, in terms of working with cast, like we were
Mhm.
never going to, I will say, I far exceeded my expectations for what a cast could be on this movie. I had very modest, moderate expectations, but, at one point there was a discussion of like, oh, we know this person who could be our casting director, and he's
Mhm.
very affordable. And I was like, this is not the place to cut corners. Like we're going to do the casting process with as much sincere, like we're going to get a proper casting director and go through the steps with the auditions and all that, because ultimately I can put together all these elements or whatever, like great lighting, great location, great all that stuff, but if the performers don't have it, there's no movie. And yeah, I'm so appreciative of the cast that we got, because all of them were top choices, all of them just absolutely delivered. And the fact that I have had screenings where every single one of the six characters has been cited as a favorite character by a different person is pretty freaking cool to be, to have witnessed.
Uh, Going with that, your cast is amazing. The characters are incredible. They're so human that you can have an attachment to each one of them in a different way. For Brooke and Jacob, how did you relate to your character, and what was it about your character that you love the most?
Um, I don't necessarily personally relate to Gordon, other than the fact that I have been like a person who's been in adult relationships that I've ended or other people have ended.
Mhm.
I think that's what I saw myself in the most, is I've been a guy who's like run into an ex and didn't want to talk to them, or I've run into an ex and wanted more out of an experience.
Mhm.
And I think that's where I found like Jacob's portal into Gordon was that heart, and I could put my heart into Gordon in that way. But other than that, like he's not I'm not an argumentative guy, I'm not having big talks about the environment and stuff like that. But like I said earlier, I've met those people in my
Mhm.
life, and I've met those combative attitudes, and have some of them that are kind of closer in my peer group, where I really identified with, like, I know what makes that person tick because I'm friends with that person. And I have been friends with that person for way too long.
I
Um,
remember after filming the big art, like there's a scene at the dinner table where Jacob
Mhm.
really, really does not. He's relentless with some Cassie, and I remember after each take, Jacob would be like, "Ugh, I hate being this person. I hate being this
Mhm.
person," So,
yeah,
but
you had to kind of wash it off a little bit because my instincts are not to be combative. My instincts are to like be minimal and people pleasery. So it's
Mhm.
not Gordon at all. But you find the parallels, and you find the people that can inspire uh, the differences within.
Mhm. Brooke.
Well, just to piggyback on that, I think what Jacob did with Gordon is so beautiful because
Mhm.
Jacob is a very warm, loving, accepting human. And so to play Gordon the way he did was so outside of his character, which is just like kudos to him as an actor. But um, then he also it it's nuanced. Like you find yourself loving Gordon, and Jacob brought all of that warmth and everything when the time was right, just so that everybody was like, "Oh my God, I love this guy," and he
Mhm.
is a complete favorite. And he's so funny in the movie. But so yeah, it's not just him being, awful.
Mhm.
It's us still falling in love with him despite his awful behavior. So it's really he did a really good job. So Jacob, I love you.
Mwah, mwah, mwah.
um,
Thank you.
um, me okay. So for Mia, like I first of all, I am a mom. Um, I but I fell in love with the writing. So as soon as I read her and there's one line in particular when she has to comfort Cassie,
Mhm.
and there are a million things she could have said in that moment when she comforts Cassie, but what she said was, hey, I'm a mom, it's
Mhm.
okay, I'm a mom. And I was like, that tells me everything I need to know about where her heart, right, and her where she
Mhm.
comes from, and everything else goes from there. So
Mhm.
that that was, first of all, my wheelhouse as a mom and as an actor who can totally dive in. My coach, it was funny, my coach said, this is the perfect first role for you because it's not like they're asking you to play Margaret Thatcher. And I was like,
Yeah,
yeah, I know,
yeah.
right?
It's
So, I
true.
mean, it was great. But, it was still, I still had to keep up with these incredible actors on set, and so, I had to do the work and be prepared and all of that. But in terms of understanding her and her heart, yeah, I was in.
And
And we,
also,
I mean, we asked a lot of them to rise to the occasion of like, we didn't have rehearsal time the way a big
mhm.
movie would. Day one was day one. I had met with everybody individually on Zoom, but we hadn't actually gotten to meet together. And so but it's a case of everybody rose to the occasion because they really clicked with the bigger picture of what this movie could be, and that, I was just so grateful that everyone saw what this movie was going to be, where they did the homework they needed to do. And that's, as a filmmaker, you sort of create the environment and hope people do that. And we certainly got that with all six of their casts and the crew, of course.
That's awesome. And the actors talked a little bit about how they fell in love with the writing. For the characters, how in depth did you go with them, and was it also allowing the collaborative process with the actors to kind of put their own personality to make these characters very human and very very charismatic?
Yeah, there's a little bit of touch for every single one of them that's personal to that person. I remember, it was day one and we're doing makeup tests, and Brooke has a tattoo on her arm, and the makeup artist's like, "Are we keeping the tattoo? It's gonna take 3 hours a day." No, it wasn't gonna take 3 hours. It was gonna take maybe 30 minutes a day to cover up that tattoo if you want. And I was like, "Oh, I didn't write that tattoo in," but I was like, "Yeah, let's keep it. It's not." And then let's think about that in terms of like, if you go to Oregon, especially LeGrand, that's a tattoo you would see, and that fits with what we're doing here. And I didn't conjure that up. That's Brooke infusing that in her character, and just a detail that's, you have to pause and look for it if you do it, but that just, maybe the other actors see that and they start to think about what that is and all that. And then with Jacob, I remember in our Zoom call we were talking about, him playing the role, and he's like, "I have one request. I am keeping my rat tail." And I was like, all right, fine." And like, yeah, I would have never
My
written,
diva moment.
you know, like hair and makeup. No, I never would have written like Gordon with the rat tail, all that. In fact, I really didn't have a visual for Gordon. Gordon could have gone a lot of different ways, and so that. But then it's like, okay, let's think about what is that? What could that mean? And what, having that specific thing. And it really, there's a great sequence in the downtown when we just catch a little bit of it, and and that was a moment where Jacob, as an actor, was like, "Well, are you catching what I'm doing?" I'm like, "You bet." It maybe not in the way you think. I'm not
Mhm.
right up in your face, but just seeing your silhouette essentially, and what you're doing as a performer with your hair is just A plus, and doing exactly what we needed to do. And that those little touches that each of the characters brought, or each of the cast members brought, that are themselves
Mhm.
snuck into these fictional characters.
Awesome. And for the actors, how how difficult was it to create the family feel? Because guys definitely made the family feel authentic, and you guys still seem like you're amazing friends, and get along so well. So how did that camaraderie happen?
Oh, you're muted, Brooke.
Can't hear you,
Oh,
Brittany.
am I muted? Uh-oh, hold
Yeah,
tight.
now I got you. Yeah,
Am I
go
there
ahead.
now? Weird.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, well, I think it starts with Nelson, right? Because we all had to just show up and start working. And if he, like, going back to what he said earlier about making this a movie that looks like a huge production with a ton of budget and whatever, and that relationships are a big part of that, Nelson shines when it comes to building relationships and fostering a loving environment. And so that's how it started, is just trusting him and the energy that I already felt it just in my Zoom calls with him,
Hmm.
even my audition with him and the callback. I was like, I already love this guy, and so he puts that out there. We just had to get on the train, and pun intended. And so and we did. We did connect like immediately. It was a really he cast not just good actors, I feel, but just really good humans. And I know that's a really a talent as well, is seeing through people as actors and going, but is this somebody we want to work with? I don't know how he did it, but he did it. And then on set, we were there together. Like we filmed pretty much in the same house for at least the first 2 weeks, and so we really got to know each other very quickly, and hung out, and just we completely fell in love with each other, which made it so easy to show that, on in during the scenes.
Hmm. Really
But,
nicely said. Yeah.
mhm,
The only thing I would add is like I think we all wanted it to work, right? Like, so you're six individuals, you get given a good script, you have a great meeting with the director, you get on set, and you want it to work. And if everybody wants it to work the same amount, like that, I call it the psychosis. It's, I'm being a bit cheeky with that word, but it is like, it's a belief system. It is like faith based or whatever, where
mhm,
it's like, if we all believe the same, then we are equal and it is real, and then it is.
Yes.
And I think
Mhm.
we all just had that drive to make it work. And then I also think it's a benefit of being in an indie movie where, you know, we're all staying pretty closely together. Nobody's in a better hotel than somebody else because they're the star. Um, it's a small town, so there's only five places to go.
mhm.
You kind of end up populating the same five places. So it all benefited itself, but the core of it is just we all wanted it to work.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on this movie. It is a fantastic watch, a very endearing movie. Not necessarily what you would expect for the ho holiday season, but it's still an amazing watch. So, congratulations and thank you very much for your time.
Yeah,
Thanks for the
Thank
thank
you.
great
you. Can
thoughts.
I tell one more story since we've got these specific two people with us?
Go for it.
Sure. So as I was writing, it's a six-person movie. It's really tightly bound with all of them.
Mhm,
And I sort of did at some point, I was like, well, does every character have a scene with every other character? Because it's a lot of
mhm,
two-person scenes. And I did a little like drawing chart of all the different, ties that I could. And the only one I was missing from that draft was these two act Gordon and Mia, and that
mhm,
was the only one I didn't have a line between. And I was like, okay, brain thinking, what can I do? What can I do? And then I wrote, it's a page and a half long scene. It's with these two, and it was, a quick scene. It was one of the simplest setups. It's just two cameras looking at two actors, and but it was the last scene I wrote of the movie, and it's such a tender, quick scene. I think we did it in like two or three takes, and I remember being
Yeah,
like, what a just great little heartfelt moment that just gives the last, piece of the chink in the chain, I guess, essentially, for what
yeah,
the six-person dynamic needed.
yeah. That was so cool, and it was like, the story. You knew the story so well, so you knew that it needed to be like Gordon picking up, or like you knew that it needed to be like a moment of ownership or maturity for Gordon. Um, and then like, a moment for them, because especially just the information Gordon just gets, like, I don't know, you just knew exactly what it needed to be, and that it didn't need to be this big, hey, Mia, thanks for letting me stay. It's all
Yeah, exactly.
subtext.
I
It's
knew it.
all context. And I'll even say like Nelson was awesome in like in writing that. It was like what should it be exactly? And I
Mhm.
think it was like we collaboratively came up with the idea that it's like maybe the salsa was good, like you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It was like
that was
a thing that we
a
were
slight tweak.
talking
Yeah.
about it. Yeah, it was fun. It was like coming up with it together, and it felt even better because it's like you'd been Mia for 3 weeks, I had been Gordon for 3 weeks, so it was like much easier to make those decisions and find what worked.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite scenes to shoot too, because it was so I don't want to say easy, but I remember we shot it. It was just like done, and then Nelson goes, "Huh, okay." Like, wow,
Hmm.
that was okay.
Yeah.
We're done here.
That's
Yeah,
a good scene.
yeah. And then Jacob's the one who goes, "That was so tender," and I was like, "It was so tender." It was a very succinct scene that didn't have to be. You know, we didn't have to club him over the head with it, right? It was just
Yeah.
beautifully written. So,
And every
Yeah.
time
um,
we watch the movie, we hold each other's hands after the scene, and it's
Aw.
great. And I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was, it was so important to me that it wasn't like, okay, now Gordon suddenly has his life together. I think that's what too
Yeah.
when the time frame of the movie takes place in a week, basically,
Mhm.
and if you're only, I don't need the characters to suddenly be like, Dad, it's time I finally started
Yeah.
chipping in,
I got
and
my
so
bindle packed. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and I've seen that, and I watch that in new movies all the
Mhm.
time, and I'm just like, oh, guys, like, if we're gonna do real stuff, we can't the incremental progress will feel huge. It'll feel like one small step for man when
Mhm.
Gordon, the character, does just a small thing. And it's like,
Mhm.
okay, what we're trying to feel like how it might actually feel like
Mhm.
this Christmas. And so that scene for me was such an encapsulation of like, yes, Gordon and Mia are not going to change drastically overnight,
Mhm.
and characters don't change overnight, really. But they're going to make a small little step that then we, the
Mhm.
audience, are going to know down the line there's a growth that's going to happen.
yes.
Definitely. I think there's a lot of scenes in the movie that are like that. Even the big twist at the end, which I don't want to spoil because it came out of nowhere and it's just at a perfect timing, the perfect gesture. I think the movie just came together so well, and it's because of the writing, it's because of the acting, everything just seemed to fall into place. So congratulations on this project.
Thanks,
Yeah,
friends.
thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thanks.
Appreciate chatting about it. So